Prince Handley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure, healing, miracle-working love. I want to talk to you today about dealing with stress in the end times. More particularly, how to protect yourself from stress. In the Brit Hadashah, the Hebrew New Testament or Covenant, we read in the second book of Timothy, chapter 3, verses 1 to 5, "But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come." The Greek word for perilous used in this passage is the word chalepos, and it means harsh, fierce, difficult, dangerous, painful, grievous, hard to deal with. It actually describes a society that has replaced virtue with immorality, and this includes governments and leaders in government. In addition, the void left by deleting virtue invites the entrance of demonic spirits to operate within the arts, the media, commerce, and governmental and legal structures of society. All you have to do is watch the media, and you'll see examples of this almost every day. In the USA, there have been daily reports of the government trampling on the rights of people, the IRS unfairly targeting certain religious and political groups. Healthcare laws that were designed to win or garner votes have caused thousands to lose their jobs, and others have had employment cut back from full-time to part-time. And that does not even take into consideration the reduced quality of healthcare that will result. Many experienced doctors are quitting the practice. And another example of corruption in government, the President of the United States supporting Islamic militants, the Muslim Brotherhood, who are murdering Christians and burning churches. These examples I just mentioned do not even include what is going on in less democratic nations and governments. Because of barrenness of virtue in the last days, there will be much corruption in commerce, in government, and in relationships, resulting in hard, painful, and stressful conditions in the lives of people. So what's the answer? I've covered it in this podcast teaching. Listen and start now protecting yourself from stress so that you'll be able to deal with stress in the end times coming upon the days of the earth. My friend, we are already in the initial phase of the end times. So I'm going to talk to you today more about how to protect yourself from stress. In a previous teaching 4 years ago, I taught on healing from stress. I have placed the link for that teaching in the show notes of this podcast. In that teaching, I showed you how to be healed, how to be delivered from stress. In this teaching, I want to teach you how to prevent stress from operating in your life. Instead of fixing the situation, I want to teach you some areas of preventive maintenance to avoid stress in your life. After I received the mikvah of Ruach HaKodesh, the baptism in the Holy Spirit, I did lots of research on fasting and health. I noticed that in the Scandinavian countries there was more emphasis of fasting than in the West. Some Scandinavians would fast 1 day a week or 3 days a month. Also, their medical practice was based more on a preventive regimen than on a fix-it-after-the-problem. I have a very honest auto mechanic. Sometimes he does not even charge me. Other times he will say, "You don't need that." And many times he's told me things that I should do to prevent mechanical failures, whereas he could have not mentioned these things and waited until something broke and then charged me. Today I want to tell you how to prevent stress from happening in your life, how to protect yourself from stress. In Job chapter 3, verse 26, we read, "I am not at ease, neither am I quiet, neither have I rest, but trouble comes." I have a mini teaching on Job. I've placed the link for that teaching in the show notes of this podcast. It's called Healing Through Proper Mental Attitude. But pertinent to this teaching today, I want to emphasize that Job, in this situation, before he was healed, was not at ease, he was disquieted, he was restless, and he was troubled. Proverbs 27, verse 12 tells us, "A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences." I've done lots of investing through the years by day trading and investing in commodities and futures where I operated with large margins for the advantage of leverage. Of course, if the trades went south, the margins worked to my disadvantage. But here, in this teaching, I want to illustrate the good use of margins. The definition of margin is an amount available beyond what is actually needed. One source describes it as the space between our current load and our limits. Now let me tell you what happens when you do not have margin. Stress goes up. Focus narrows. Relationships suffer. You're not prepared for the future. Notice, relationships only start or are nourished during margin. In the Brit Hadashah, the Hebrew New Testament or Covenant, in the book of Luke, chapter 17, verse 1, Mashiach Yeshua taught us, things that cause people to stumble are bound to come. My friend, this is where margin can be a buffer to protect you from stress. Now let me tell you how to develop margin. Number 1, slow down. Number 2, simplify things in your life, your activities, your stuff, your technology. Number 3, allow for and establish time, money, work, and relationship margins. Give yourself space. Don't make things too binding, too tight, too limited. Plan for margin in your time, your financial dealings, your work, and your relationships. Let me say that again. Allow for margins in your time, your money, your work, and your relationship. By money, I'm talking about all of your financial dealings. The time margin is one of the easiest to fix, but at the same time, the one we prioritize least when planning. Messiah was asked the question, Rabbi, which is the greatest commandment in Torah? Yeshua answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Love provides. It leads the way for margin. However, the mechanics of margin are maintained during Shabbat, during Sabbath, the day of rest. The mechanics of margin, such as the need for it, the desire for it, and the how-to plans for it, are inculcated during the day of rest with God. Also during the day of rest, there are 2 promised blessings shown in Ishawahu, or Isaiah the prophet, chapter 58. Number 1, you will ride on the high places of the earth. And number 2, you will feed on the heritage of Yaakov, Jacob, your father. In other words, you will be above and in control of the events in your life, with heights of enjoyment. And you will be prosperous, healthy, and fruitful. My friend, start today establishing margins in your family, in your finances, and in your field of endeavor. Give yourself space. Don't make things too binding, too tight, too limited for yourself, your family, your associates. Plan for margin. It will protect you from stress now and in the end times. This has been your friend, Prince Handley, coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure, healing, miracle-working love. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai.